Hello and welcome to Arcade Couch, the best place to chill with your friends and get your gaming goodness every Monday at 6 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. I'm Ashley Hobley, and joining me today on the couch is Kieran Marchand.
It's, I'm the back-to-back podcaster of 2024. I mean, I'm time both times. I'm here for both episodes. And then next week, we're going back-to-back-to-back. We'll keep it up. Can't promise it the entire year, but right now, yes, I can.
Yeah, crazy. Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thunk it?
First one to miss an episode in the year.
Well, you almost did. You almost did last week.
With it's 20 minutes.
Definition of... Well, there was a whole podcast recording prior to that as US, but it's...
Yeah, but not this podcast. Let's talk about keys, is what I want to say. No. On today's episode. That's a reference to
that is.
Okay,
yeah.
couch.
Mm-hmm.
On today's episode, we'll be talking about all the depressing news continuing to happen in 2024. Also, Nintendo made a passive-aggressive remark about Palworld. And yeah, that's kind of it. But we'll kick things off with a more positive note. I can finally talk about the game that I've been playing the last several weeks.
Ooh.
Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. I'll just say off the top, haven't finished it yet. Still got like a chapter and something. Let me tell you what happened. So I'm like chapter 7, 8. I'm doing like a bunch of the sub stories and that kind of stuff. I've cleared like a fair portion. Like I've like a lot of stuff's off the map. I'm like, wow, I'm really far along. It's really weird that there's one like blanked out thing on the main menu, like on the pause menu.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure it's just going to be like some small thing that'll only add like a little bit of time to the game. It'll be fine. Turns out I was not even close to finished. So, completely misjudged how far into the game I was. But yeah, it's so I do have a quality critic score. I haven't got an article up yet. Like a Dragon's got a 9.5 across 7 reviews. Charlie over at Checkpoint said, taking the franchise to new heights and no cows, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is the pinnacle of the long-standing franchise. The game is magnificently pulled off the difficult task of giving new and local players the best of both worlds with the new Ichiban-led story, while also nailing emotional payoff years in the making with the Kiryu story portions. Providing quality side content that is addicting and seemingly endless, there isn't a single drip of the game that is dry, dull, or not worth your time. And she gave it a 9.5. Matt Hewson over at Player 2 gave it an A- and said, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth has taken the solid foundation of Yakuza 7 and refined it to the point where I can safely say this is one of the best, if not the best, JRPGs I've ever played. The writing is somehow both absurd and emotional. The story is high soap drama of the highest order, and the gameplay is addictive and engaging. The problems with Yakuza 7 have all been ironed out, and the new additions have all become very welcome. So this is really, really good. I'll just knock out some of the cons against the game because it's pretty easy. It does take a while to get going. I want to say maybe 2 to 3 hours before you actually get to Hawaii, which is probably the big draw of this game. Obviously, it's set, I want to say 5 years after the events of Like a Dragon. Kazuka is working for Hello Work in the wake of the Great Dissolution, in which the Tojo clan and everything kind of stopped being an organization, and the people in Yakuza, former Yakuza people, are struggling to get jobs and that kind of stuff. So he's kind of trying to help as much as he can. But then he is set on a path to find his birth mother in Hawaii. And, stumbles into a massive conspiracy. His birth mother, Akane, is being chased by several different organizations across Hawaii. And it all kind of leads to a, global conspiracy, or it's Hawaii-Japan conspiracy. And Kiryu Kazuma is helping Kasuga in Hawaii. So that's, the setup. Graphically, it's very impressive at certain points. There are definitely a lot of models that are not. There isn't the same standard across the board. I think is a fair thing to say.
Which I think is pretty normal when the
which
Yakuza
is pretty
games.
normal for this. Maybe it's most jarring because obviously it's set in Hawaii and there's like a bunch of white people, and like some of the models for them are just not as.
At least is it like my favorite's always, and I guess I draw from anime a lot. When anime go to Western, especially to America, it's always funny because they have like American characters that are talking English, but they're getting Japanese voice actors to do the English accents or the
Yes.
American accents while speaking English. It just sounds completely off and completely wrong.
I mean,
a
that's
lot of the
another
time.
thing. Like like in the start, he's like having troubles because obviously he's speaking Japanese to English people, and then they just drop that idea. Like maybe like a couple of missions after you land in Hawaii, it's like, and I'm listening to the English audio because that's easiest and it's really good. The Kasuga actor's really good, and then it's Yongye or Yonggi who's voicing Kiryu, who does a better job here than they did in the
Man who
other
erased his name.
Man Who Erased His Name game. Yeah, I think I don't know, maybe with more time in the role, just kind of, or yeah, he just has the presence for it in this one more than he did in that one. Then yeah, there's some other quirks about the Yakuza games, like the editing of cutscenes and that kind of stuff is really weird, where they'll like fade out on a scene and then they'll cut straight back to the exact same scene, but like the moment after. It's like, why? That's such a weird choice. Probably just like that. Maybe it's just a very Western thing. But yeah, it's really fun. Obviously, this is again another entry in the Yakuza franchise where it's turn-based. So you've got your party. You kind of use your attacks. There's little knockbacks and grapple moves and all that kind of stuff. A lot of elemental stuff. You have a bunch of jobs that you can get. Train each of your characters up in, which unlock different movesets you can add if you have stronger bonds with your character, but also like up your stats as well. So it's definitely worth like trying out all the different jobs, at least to like level up your stats at the very minimum. Yeah, I mean, the story is really good. Like it goes in like really interesting directions and like very emotional, has a lot of emotional beats, but then can also go in the most absurd directions humanly possible.
I
There
saw
are a
the
lot
most
of
absurd thing actually in a screenshot on Twitter. The exchange rate from Japanese yen into the USD is fucking insanely good. It is it's 1 to
yeah,
1 pretty
$1 is
much.
100 yen, which
Yep.
for Japanese people is good. Like in real life, I think
It
one
would be
US dollar is 150 US yen,
yeah.
or yen. I think it's just simple, easier
It
math.
is. It just made me
Easier.
laugh when I saw it.
Yeah.
Somebody post about it.
But yeah, there are some crazy things, like a lot of callbacks to the last game. A lot of characters happen to pop up who were previously in the last game, including a lot of fan favorite characters. Yeah, lots of tons of side mission stuff for you to like dive into. There is a whole crazy taxi-esque delivery game where you ride around on a messenger bike and deliver food, but also they want you to do tricks because they're kooky messages, and they want you to deliver their food in kooky ways, not really caring how the quality of the food actually is, what condition the food is in.
They like the pizza topping on the top of the box, They like it when it's like that.
Yeah. The other massive addition is the Buki Island Resort, which is very much an Animal Crossing-esque mode in which you like have to try and build up this this resort on a like smaller island, up from like it's covered in trash to like being a 5-star hotel. I haven't really dived much into that. Like,
I feel like that's a similar time sync to the business management stuff.
I mean,
the
even
original,
worse, I would
last
say.
Like a Dragon.
At least it's kind of segmented off, so it's like a very much its own separate, completely thing. But yeah, there's like you can collect blueprints all over the map to like make new items. Even like there's like big buildings that you can build, and then there's like you also have like your own personal house on the island, and you can decorate that with all kinds of stuff, like even the smallest, like littlest thing. but also like you have to farm resources off the island and that kind of stuff. It's a in-depth mode that is definitely adds value to the entire product. Obviously, the idea of Sujimon return. In the first game, I think it was just the people that you encounter, like who Kasuga imagines the bad guys he's fighting turn into Sugimon. This one you can actually collect them.
I think is this the one where it's like it's very close to Pokemon this time, like, which is amusing.
No, you're thinking of Palworld.
I'm thinking of Palworld. No, but like there is more. It is very much more parody and like esque where there is.
Oh,
like,
this one is a massive satire of Pokemon. There is a Sugimon League, Underground League.
Yep.
With a discrete 4 that you need to fight.
That's the great discrete 4. That's already cool.
Yeah, lots of gym battles that you need to.
I think the one I've seen is the one character I've seen is like there's like a guy in a green sleeping bag that looks a lot close to Metapod.
Yes,
like he's it looks very good.
It's very couple of smart character designs and that kind of stuff. Yeah, so you gift them stuff and then you convince them to join your team by giving them words of affirmation.
Does that replace the summons from?
No, like there is still the pound something. Pound mates, that's it.
Pound mates, yeah.
Yes, you can still call people up to do fights and that kind of stuff. Yeah, lots of fun. There's some really good additions to the cast as well. Some really interesting characters. And just, yeah, this definitely feels like a passing of the torch, especially when the story kind of delves more into the Kiryu side of the story. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that, because they said in the trailer he's got cancer. So he may or may not make it to the end of the game. But, you know, there's definitely that vibe over his section of the story of trying to make the most of the time he has and that kind of thing.
Do you think Like a Dragon, or at least the Like a Dragon series, has taken on the mantle of kind of the almost the headlining factor within the Yakuza franchise now? Like I think Like a Dragon seems to hit very differently, at least here in the West. Like seems to hit very differently than just the normal mainline numbered Yakuza games have.
Yeah, I think obviously these last two have like been way more successful. Like I feel like they've had much bigger mainstream attention. Although there was the video of QXC, I want to say
XQC QXC. Oh, that's not my juicer. Fucking hell.
Who cares? Shit. He did. What I'm saying is he didn't even realize Like a Dragon was a turn-based game until he started playing the game.
Yeah,
so.
we mentioned that. I think it's which that's just poor handling and preparation on both the brand side, but probably also XGC's management side.
Yes.
Of what actually the game is and explaining that properly.
So yeah, I think that I suspect a lot of people have jumped in these last two games, so it kind of is interesting that they've got this massive Kiryu part where they definitely like looking down into the past and then bring references to a lot of past characters and that kind of stuff. But it's never in a way that you feel super excluded. There is an element of, I'm sure this moment would be super cool if I'd played those other games, but it's like, you know, it still works in the context of this game, in the context of like a person looking back in their life to an extent. There's lots of like little improvements on the game. One of the biggest improvements, especially late game, you can pretty much move anywhere you want on the map, even if you don't go to attack. Like you don't have to be right next to a taxi to like fast travel anywhere else on the map.
Good.
Like you pay a little bit more if you're not by a taxi, but you can still, like, that is a thing that like kind of speeds up, especially when you're towards the end of the game and you're like, I don't really want to run through. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess you would, in theory, like kind of, the taxi comes to you. And,
sure. Yeah. So you pay like probably, I want to say double like the cost. But it's worth it.
I guess by the time you're getting into like the game, money's not really
no, it's not a massive deal, and like you don't really want to like because especially, I don't know if this was in the first game, but if you come across like super underleveled enemies, you have the option to like auto like quickly just knock them out and like take all their stuff.
I don't know. I don't think I got far.
It's been a while. Yeah, and there's lots of other. Obviously, if you don't want to do the turn-based thing, you have the option to turn on auto battle. It'll just fight out the fights for you and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's really good. I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I think making money may be the hardest part. Like especially when you want to get like really cool weapons and that kind of stuff. It's like you need to like grind a little bit. But really fantastic side stories and that kind of stuff. Again, like incredibly funny stuff in here. Lots of fun satire. The other amusing thing is they've got a Pokemon Snap-esque mode in which you have to photograph a bunch of quotation marks sickos who run around in just like the bath briefs, I guess, around the city and just want to be photographed.
Oh my god,
it's very weird.
All right,
but it says Pokemon Snap
yucky,
mode when you're on like a car trolley and you go past. You're trying to photograph as many of them as possible. Yeah, it's very funny. Bunch of wild stories. I've been taking so many pictures. And saving so many clips. Yeah, I'm definitely keen to finish playing it. I should have a review up sometime this week, assuming that the last part of the game doesn't take another 10 to 20 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you want to play the game, but you're scared of. I have put currently 70 hours into the game, according to my PlayStation.
70 hours is not bad. At the same time, like I loaded up Final Fantasy today, so I think I'm. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You replaying Rebirth?
Yeah, because I downloaded with Intergrade and.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I feel like I do need to play Intergrade at the very least.
Yeah. So like I downloaded it because I was like, oh, if I play all of it, like it's not, and it's something I can just chip away at while I'm doing other stuff, and yeah, but it's definitely a game that I'm like, there's definitely going to be a period of time at some point in the year where there is not much that I'm interested in or nothing that I'm like screaming for, and like at that moment I'll be like, cool, I can sit down now for a period of time and play Infinite Wealth. Like that'll be a good option, I think, at all times.
Oh yeah, another criticism I saw that Charlie pointed out was like a lot of the female jobs are very kind of sexist, and I'd have to agree.
Is sadly,
that is also a very Japanese thing as well. Unfortunately,
sadly, very much part of Japanese culture.
Yeah. A bunch of the dude jobs are cool, like Desperado and Samurai and
and that was much the same in the last one. Like it was like like idols and stuff like that. Like,
pretty the same. Idols, housekeeper. You know, Night Queen.
Yeah.
Read into that one you will. So yeah, definitely play Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. It's fantastic. Alright, let's get into some of the depressing news of the week. So reading from Polygon, Microsoft is laying off 1,900 workers, or around 8% of Microsoft Gaming's 22,000 employees from its gaming division. The majority of layoffs are at Activision-Blizzard, according to The Verge, though cuts will impact Xbox and ZeniMax employees too. Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer sent out a memo to staff Thursday morning to announce the cuts. It's been a little over 3 months since the Activision, Blizzard, and King's teams joined Microsoft. As we move forward in 2024, the leadership of Microsoft Gaming Activision Blizzard is committed to aligning on strategy and an execution plan with a sustainable cost structure that will support the whole of our growing business. Together, we've set priorities, identified areas of overlap, and ensured they are aligned on the best opportunities for growth. As part of this process, we've made the painful decision to reduce the size of our gaming workforce by approximately 1,900 roles out of the 22,000 people on our team. The gaming leadership team and I are committed to navigating this process as thoughtfully as possible, so the people who are directly impacted by these reductions have all played an important part in the success of Activision, Blizzard, ZeniMax, and the Xbox teams, and they should be proud of everything they've accomplished. We are grateful for all the creativity, passion, and dedication they've brought to our games, our players, and our colleagues. We'll provide our full support to those who have impacted during the transition, including severance benefits informed by local employment laws. Those whose roles will be impacted will be notified, and we ask that you please treat your departing colleagues with the respect and compassion that is consistent with our values. Looking ahead, we'll continue to invest in areas that will grow our business and support our strategy of bringing more games to more players around the world. Although this is a difficult moment for our team, I'm as confident as ever in our ability to create and nurture the games, stories, and worlds that bring players together. Blizzard president Mike Ybarra, who previously worked for Microsoft for more than 20 years, will leave the company. He posted on X, formerly Twitter. As many of you know, Mike previously spent more than 20 years at Microsoft. Now that he has been seeing the acquisition through as Blizzard's president, he has decided to leave the company, Matt Booty said in a statement published by The Verge. Alongside the job losses, Microsoft also cancelled Activision-Blizzard's unannounced survival game to instead focus on one of several promising new projects Blizzard has in early stages of development. Terrible, but probably really not surprising.
I think it's very much the downside of this kind of corporate mergers and takeovers, because these, Microsoft especially has a lot of these teams already, that they already have their own teams worked out for. They've already got their own people worked out for. You currently go, you're not going to keep on two sets of everything. It fucking sucks. And like, this is, I guess, such a wide casted net in terms of the amount of jobs out of this one, because Activision Blizzard is such a large set of studios. I think, I really hope, I'd be really interested in a couple of years' time if there is kind of some investigative kind of pieces done across the entire industry on what kind of led us to this point, what has caused this. I think a lot of what I've read is kind of the belief of this is kind of the fallover from the pandemic. Everything was so great in the pandemic. Everything in terms of, I guess not everything, but like in terms of game sales and the amount of audiences, so many people were turning to video games that, we had all new highs in terms of numbers and purchase sales, and like you kind of had the Animal Crossing booms and Among Us booms, and I think there was more eyes on video games than there ever been before. And I get the feeling like a lot of these corporate kind of boards have then projected their 2023, 2024, like that, the years following the pandemic, based upon pandemic numbers instead of basing themselves off on those kind of pandemic numbers and lessening it off. Like, sure, there was probably some lessening off done, but I think maybe they were a bit more optimistic rather than pessimistic. And it's still, like, it sucks that on the same day Microsoft announces ridiculous amounts of profits in their company, they're also laying off 1,500 people at the same time in their business. Like, that's fucking horrible.
I mean, the other thing that's been a kick in the mouth is the Bobby Kotick of it all, and him getting like a massive $400 million payout to be removed, which I feel like Xbox or Microsoft didn't have much of a choice in. Like, I imagine that was just like, that was in the contract, and there's nothing they could really do about it. But optically, is like a really bad look for Microsoft too. They paid that much money to him, and then lay off a bunch of these people. Yeah, it also looks like, I don't know if it was the same for you, but like, you went on social media that morning and like it was inundated.
It was constant. Everybody. Like, it was constant people saying, "Hey, I've lost my job. Hey, I've lost my job." And you're like, "Fuck, okay, this is." Yeah,
which is crazy because also I feel like a lot of it was like internal support teams and like the people who like work on physical game releases and kind of stuff. But yeah, it also like a lot of people, actual devs as well, like, or people who actually make the games, code and that kind of stuff, also being cut. So it was like pretty across the board. Like we said, this massive survival game completely shuttered. Which is an interesting move, because you think, especially this week with the success of another survival game, that maybe Microsoft would be wanting to, keep that going.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, this week, did you know there was 2 survival games released this week?
Really?
Like, yeah, there was Enshrouded was released into early access on Steam at the exact same time as Palworld, and it has not done anywhere near as well because of how well Palworld's doing. Like, I think,
because they didn't like copy a bunch of stuff off of a more famous franchise?
Don't think it's quite that one. Don't believe it's that one.
Okay, if you say so.
Hmm.
But yeah, also, yeah, this was, something that we all kind of saw coming. I think, our good friend James Woods over at Kotaku wrote a really good article about Xbox not being your friends, and pretty much articulated what I've been saying for the last 4 or 5 years on this podcast.
Sorry. No company is your friend. Doesn't matter if it's Xbox, doesn't matter if it's Sony, doesn't matter if it's fucking Nintendo.
But the name of the article was "Xbox is not your friend."
Yeah, but that's no company is your friend. So that's trying to capitalize on not the greatest.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I was right that the Activision-Blizzard deal was bad.
No,
and a bunch of people are out of work.
No.
And this is only just the start. I want to say we are closing in on the number of people who got laid off in 2024 already in 2023, especially on the back of the other massive layoff news this week over at Riot. Reading from Press Start, Riot Games, the Tencent-owned publisher and developer responsible for the global phenomenon League of Legends, plus a whole empire of esports, spin-off games, music, TV, and more, has just announced a reduction of its workforce by 11%, cutting another around 530 jobs in total. Riot Forge, the label that produced a number of smaller indie-adjacent titles set within the League of Legends universe, in collaboration with external talent, will also be dissolved entirely. Riot CEO Dylan Deja announced layoffs in an open letter where he expressed the extent and scope of the changes, how things got to a point where the company decided this was the next move, and how it would all be rolled out. The message starts, Rioters, today I'm sharing a decision we hoped we would never have to make it right. We are changing some of the bets we've made and shifting how we work across the company to create focus and move us towards a more sustainable future. This decision means we're eliminating about 530 roles globally, which represents around 11% of our workforce, with the biggest impacts to our team outside of the core development. This also sadly means we'll be saying goodbye to many talented colleagues and friends across all areas of Riot. I realize this is awful news to hear, and especially hard for those who will be leaving us. To all the riders who have been laid off, we are deeply sorry that it's come to this. Deja then describes the company's challenges as the result of a number of big bets made since 2019, including rapid global expansion, broadening of its portfolio, and changes in its operating model. Some of the most significant investments we've made aren't paying off the way we expected them to, he adds. Our costs have grown to the point where they're unsustainable, and we're left ourselves with no room for experimentation or failure, which is vital to a creative company like ours. All of this puts the core of our business at risk. The CEO says that after attempts at reducing the company's costs over the matter of months, it was ultimately decided by the leadership team that reducing the overall headcount, as opposed to, say, those same leadership executive teams take pay cuts, was the way forward. Naturally, it's disappointing to see yet more layoffs as a result of drive for massive corporate growth, and that's what's been a relentless series of these same stories can seemingly touch even the most lucrative and seemingly infallible corners of the industry. I think this is probably the more surprising layoff story this week. Like, you think Riot, you think the ever-growing money bin that is
the
League
money
of Legends
printer that is, shit, we need some more money, better put out a skin. Need some more money, better put out a skin. I'd love to know, maybe, is that changing? Is that kind of is that not working for their player base anymore? Is skin purchasing not as lucrative for them? Is it the Battle Pass meta of kind of in general? Has that affected League of Legends shop sales?
What impact did them releasing all the games on Xbox Game Pass have?
I don't think much.
Did that have a net positive?
I don't think it has mattered either way. Because all it's really done is given people access to stuff that they could unlock it for free in game anyway. Like, although the Game Pass and all the Game Pass does for, say, League of Legends or Valorant is like give them access to characters,
which you would otherwise have to buy.
No,
or grind to unlock.
To get. But I would be, I guess, for the majority of their player base, though, we are what? How many years into the lifespan of League of Legends, how many people would actually be purchasing every single character these days anymore. Maybe getting the bag from Xbox is probably a lot more than that. I also think Riot's had a lot of problems in the last, 12 to 24 months in terms of stories being brought out of it about its kind of culture.
I don't know if that's 12 months. I feel like that's been kind of an ongoing story
It's an ongoing
for a
story,
while.
but for a
that they have been
while,
rectifying, to be fair. But I feel like in the last year they had to make a bunch of payouts.
like I think it's I would be. I guess Riot itself is, you think he's doing well enough in terms of stuff like Arcane. Like that's a fucking Netflix series. Is probably one of the most anticipated Netflix series of this year. Is going to be Arcane. There's multiple new IPs from Riot are in the works. Like there's is it Project Z or whatever their fighter is called?
I think it's probably F. That makes the most sense, right?
Or Project F. Like,
which is I think hasn't been cancelled. They've cancelled a bunch of other stuff, but that one is definitely still in the works and could, from all reports, could drop at any moment they want it to drop.
Yeah, and we had that period a year or two ago where we had like a bunch of. It was around E3 time when they announced like 4 or 5 different projects within like the space of a week in terms of like different IP or like different stories they want to tell within the League of Legends universe.
So they had the Riot Forge arm in which they were doing a bunch of indie S games with a lot of their IPs, which they are now shuttering, which makes sense because they were never well marketed.
No,
would be the way I would.
A lot of the time, I didn't know that they'd come out. Like
yes, something would drop, and you go, "Oh, that's a League of Legends thing."
Yes, yeah. Why? Okay,
that was out.
Yeah,
okay. And yet those weren't the ones that went on something like a Game Pass.
That would be a thing of Riot, kind of maybe relying too much on their current audience base and not having as much effort into kind of gathering more people. Like it's not the Fortnite juggernaut's insane. Like, and I don't think League of Legends, I don't think has ever been on that. Like League was up there, but I don't think League was ever to that point of
it's hard to say because obviously its peak interest is in more Eastern markets, which don't get marketed as heavily here us in Australia. So, but again, when you think of Riot, you think of
League of Legends,
Valorant, like making a ton of money. You wouldn't suspect them to need to downscale to this degree.
But I just think it's not just. It's a combination of things, right? It's inflation. It's kind of the world marketplace as a whole, anyway, impacting them. I think this is the first big period where game developers and studios are in their current form going through these periods of time. Like I don't think we've ever had a period like this, like in terms of like the last decade or 2 decades. Like it's been pretty good in terms of business. Like it's been pretty great for them. Sure, there's been moments of shitness, but there's never been ongoing strain on the system where I very much think not just internal forces and pressures, but external stuff is happening that is pressuring all these studios to kind of change how they're doing things and change where their money flow is coming from and change where their employment is, which is it fucking sucks, and I think it's not a good thing. You can't have 2023 be, as some people, myself included, look at being like the best year in gaming that we've had in a very long time, and yet have had the most job layoffs. Like I think we got up to almost 10,000 last year. And now we are January 28th. We're recording this, and there's already been another 2,000 jobs lost.
Yeah, it's ridiculous the number of job losses so far this year. You would look at it. You could potentially look at it mercifully, like at least they didn't lay off all those people before Christmas. So I mean, that's the one silver lining from,
I guess,
from this. But yeah, the other interesting story to come out of this was that Riot was working on a unannounced Twitch competitor. So I'm reading from Kotaku Australia. Riot Games has shuttered an unannounced plan for a video streaming platform that would have used to take on Twitch. As reported by Bloomberg, the platform was tentatively named the Riot Esports Network, or REN, and was an app fans could have used to watch competitive rounds of Riot games like League of Legends or Valorant between pro players. League esports, just by itself, draws massive viewers counts on Twitch, frequently in the hundreds of thousands or any given day in the year. It's easy to see a business case for Riot wanting to capture those meteoric numbers for itself.
I don't see that ever being a successful thing. Twitch is,
unless like they got a bunch of like massive,
even if they got massive ones,
exclusive.
Even if they got exclusive, like Twitch is not gonna. Fuck, Twitch has got, how many games does Twitch have with how many streamers from those big games it has on that platform, and yet it's also undergone massive job cuts in the last 2-3 months. It's also kind of, the CEO has publicly said Twitch isn't profitable. Twitch is not a green tick in Amazon's books. Twitch is not good from a business standpoint.
Yeah.
And that's with multiple platforms and multiple games being. You think in pulling onto just League and having all of League and Valorant and kind of the Riot games on their streaming platform is going to do well, and we've already had test cases of 10 years ago Dota 2 in the esports marketplace. Sorry, it was the common way was to sell digital tickets to events, and that got phased out because of Twitch. So I don't see anything that is I don't see that of there, hence why it's been shuttered and has been shelved. I don't think it was.
I mean, again, I feel like it potentially in the Eastern markets, especially with the news that Twitch pulled out of Korea. I mean,
that's fair.
There could have been potential there, but really sad news across the board, and hopefully we won't have as many stories with so many massive layoffs.
Hope not
later in the year, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, it's probably going to keep happening.
It is probably going to keep happening. Let's update the Palworld story from last week. Also reading from Press Start. The Pokemon Company says it will be investigating Palworld and taking appropriate measures. Although much of the discourse around the recently released Palworld and many of its Pal creatures bearing distinct similarities to existing Pokemon has been largely overshadowed by the immense success of the game, apparently notching up over 7 million sales in just over 5 days, it seems that the Pokemon Company is very much intent on examining the situation for itself. The company has issued a statement via its corporate portal, stating that it intends to investigate and take appropriate measures to address any acts that infringe on intellectual property rights related to Pokemon, without explicitly mentioning Palworld, aside from it being a game that released this month. We've received many inquiries regarding another company's game released in January 2024. We have not granted any permission for the use of Pokemon's intellectual property or assets in that game. We intend to investigate and take appropriate measures to address any acts that infringe on intellectual property rights related to the Pokemon. We will continue to cherish and nurture each and every Pokemon and its world, and work to bring the world together through Pokemon in the future. Interesting that they would release statements. This doesn't give much sway either way, in my opinion.
This is how
doing anything or not.
I've looked at it. Japan, all right, in Japan, there is no such thing as fair use.
Yes.
None at all. Japan is ruthless. This game has been public in its forms since it was originally announced. If Nintendo was going to do something, it would already be doing it. I think what came out this week in terms of the only thing I think, sure, the designs of the powers are very close, but I think if that had been enough, Nintendo would already be doing something, because it's had the Electabuzz ripoff as the kind of the face of Palworld, and that is probably one of the ones that I think is the closest to being kind of a direct one-to-one. But on top of that, I think this week it came out that there is the potential for the interior, kind of model frames inside the pals being almost exact to Pokemon's, that's where I'm like, if that's true, you're fucked. Like, you're fucked, Palworld. That's true.
Yeah.
I can't say anything because it is kind of impossible for that to be a coincidence that the model mesh frames for both Pokemon and Powers are kind of exactly the same. I think that's you're fucked. But if it was just based on the game using the designs and stuff, I think Nintendo would have already done something. Nintendo would have done something prior to this game coming out. Like, this game would never have been released. As we saw this week when a mod was put out that made Palworld into Pokemon, instant nixed. Instant get fucked by Nintendo. Nintendo immediately.
Was it Nintendo or was it the actual company?
No. It was Nintendo themselves. As far as I've read and looked into, it was Nintendo because it was actual modded content based on Nintendo and everything. Like, it was, they've redone the opening cutscene to have Ash waking up and Pokemon actually waking up to see him and different things. I think, like, to me, I think it's very. Yeah, I think if Nintendo was seriously going to do something, would have already done it. I think it's. I think Nintendo had to put out this statement because Palworld is too big not to. But I think if maybe I'd be thinking differently if this was a Western kind of. But this is not. This isn't going to be an international case because both companies are Japanese companies. It's all internal to Japan. Like, I think it's it'll be interesting how it plays out and if Nintendo ever mentions it again. I don't. Yeah, I think I've had a lot of thought since we had the discussion last week about it. That I hadn't even thought of during our discussion last week. Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go isn't a kid's game. Like, I think there is kind of test subjects of Pokemon. You are no shot. Pokemon Go
is totally a kid's
is
game.
not a kid's game. No,
how is it not a kid's game?
What kids have mobile phones?
Every kid.
No, okay, all right. What kids should have mobile phones walking around places by themselves playing the game?
I don't think it. I don't think
it's. I don't want to get into. I don't want to get into an argument again.
I think it's a family game,
but I don't think it is. But I think that is.
There's nothing in that game that implicitly makes it adult.
No, but it's more adult than when we were saying what was being alluded to last week of that needs to stay as a kid's game. That's the only thing I was thinking.
You're stretching super far.
I'm not stretching.
Oh no, children aren't allowed to walk around anywhere.
No, but there's so much in Pokemon Go that is more clearly not adult in terms of adult themes, but is more kind of the older audience of Pokemon that enjoys that game is there for them.
That is a wild statement.
It is not a wild statement. Yeah, it's not. But I'm not here to argue.
I don't want to argue about this because you're wrong, and that is a wild statement. I think there's a certain extent of Pokemon weren't going to make a move because they probably thought this was just going to be like many other Pokemon ripoffs. Flash in the pan, wasn't going to make you money, wasn't worth. It'll fizzle out on its own. We won't need to.
That's a shit mentality to have. But yeah, sorry. Go on. Keep going.
It's not cheap to like do these legal kind of things, you know.
What do you mean? It's fucking Nintendo. Why do they care about it's not cheap? What do you fucking mean? Like, this is once again Japanese company. It's not even international law. It is just Japan. This is the most litigious fucking. They will like the amount of YouTubers and content creators that get their shit instantly fucked by Nintendo is enough of a case to show that, if Palworld was a real problem for Nintendo, they'd already have done it. They're just fucking peacocking right now. They're just trying to be like, because their community is getting pissed off or their community is going in defense of it, and they're obviously talking, and a lot of people are saying, hey, Nintendo, defend it, defend it, defend it. Nintendo has to do something to show like it's doing something. I think the thing that kills Palworld is Pokemon bringing out a game similar. Because what instantly kills fucking Palworld? If you can walk around in an open world and there's a fucking Eevee you can catch and there's a fucking Charizard you can catch and fly around on and do that, and easily, openly world fly around on and stuff, and you walk in over a bridge and there's Verillion City. Like, I think I think that instantly nobody ever plays Palworld again if that game ever comes out. Palworld does not get mentioned again.
What's your take on the Asmongold story this week? Asmongold, streamer, made remarks in which he said, artists' opinions don't matter. The only opinions that matter are the people who buy the games.
Asmongold is a shitter that has some real shit takes. And I don't agree with him. I don't agree with him at all. I don't agree that artists don't matter. Like, that isn't the case whatsoever.
But don't you think that is the most prevailing opinion
in this discussion about Palworld?
In general.
Do you think
for most consumers, the people who make the game don't matter? What actually matters is the product that I'm getting.
Last week, like, for the general consumer, none of the discourse matters.
Yes.
Like I said last week, with Hogwarts Legacy being the biggest kind of grossing game of last year, the general consumer does not give a fuck about discourse or discussion or anything. They just see an IP that they like and they buy it and they play it. That's all it is. People like it is, I guess, in our bubbles or in like the gaming bubble of people who are invested in the gaming communities that read things like read your Kotakus, your IGNs, your GameSpots, your whatever. We engage in it and we know it, but for the general public that doesn't do that whatsoever, they don't. It's not. I don't even think it's not that they don't care. They just don't think about it. They don't.
Yeah, the more I think about it, the more it's exactly the same way that McDonald's is like makes the most money of all restaurants.
Yep.
People just want what makes them feel good, and they don't care how they get it or how who was behind it, as long as it's right in front of them when they want it.
Yep. I just think it's sadly that we are. It's the same thing as like the referendum vote in Australia, like in something which is Ashley's eyes just almost burst out of his head. But he's like,
let's go here.
Pardon?
Let's go this direction.
Here. But I think it is a case of what the minority of people, and sadly it is a minority of people that have this ideal view of the world, an idealistic view of what
things being better.
Of things being better. Sadly, just isn't the case for the amount of people, for most people, It is and I guess I do it knowingly, which probably makes me worse in a lot of ways, but it's the same as like the digital versus physical media aspect of gaming and everything in general, right? Like, it isn't a case of the thought of if we don't have physical media anymore, it's going to have a great effect on people's jobs. It's going to have an effect on a whole range of different jobs, of people make the discs, of people who, the teams at the different developer studios that kind of organize and kind of make manufacturing and logistical aspects of it, the people that sell it. It's going to have an impact, but you have just those people that they want the game, and they like the fact, me included, that like the fact that you can just open up your console, hit play or hit download or hit buy, and you've got the game there. You didn't have to leave your house. You didn't have to go worry about trade-in deals. You didn't have to go worry about anything like that. It's just there, done, bing bang bosh. Like it's the same as kind of, it is the culture of society nowadays, and I don't want to get too deep with it, even though bringing up the referendum votes kind of like that, but
kind of deep, yeah.
Kind of deep, but like it's the state we're in with Netflix, and it is like kids these days who I have this discussion with a friend recently. I couldn't imagine growing up in a world where I just had every movie, like not every movie, but like a stupid range of movies and TV shows at my fingertips, where I could just hit play on whatever I wanted, anytime, any place. I couldn't imagine having Game Pass. It's my biggest selling point when I talk to people about trying to be like, yeah, Game Pass is amazing. Is you just have everything at your fingertips. You have you don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But it's like you now see in times where kids lose internet or don't have access to internet for a period of time, they don't get that idea of just, oh, I don't have access to that. I can't just pick this movie that I've always watched on Netflix. I can't do that. And I think it's just the way we are as a society nowadays is.
Well, that's interesting because it kind of, like, I don't think you guys talked about it last week, but obviously someone from Ubisoft said gamers should get used to the idea of not owning their games. And that got a bunch of backlash.
It did, yeah.
But you're of the opinion that
no, I don't think. No. I
a lot of the
with
people
that.
in the younger generation are probably of that opinion already.
Not even of that opinion, but they wouldn't be aware of the idea of
mindset,
ownership. Yeah, they wouldn't have the idea of ownership of something. I think you should still be able to own something digitally. Like, I still think, I believe you should be able to have a digital license, and that license should just work as long as it's able to. I don't agree with anybody being like, hey, a company could one day just be like, hey, this game doesn't work anymore. Yoink, see you later. And like just take the key off you completely. If it's a single player game, I understand with multiplayer games there are servers and things. That is a different concept. That there are running infrastructure in the background to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
But like, this year or next year, the Assassin's Creed 2 multiplayer servers are being switched off. Or it's not 2 because I think 2's have already shut down. It might be Black Flags or Revelations is getting the servers for their multiplayer shut off. That isn't stopping people from ever playing Black Flag or ever playing Revelations. Like, that is where I would draw the line and say, yeah, there should be some ownership. But yeah, I don't think the concept of ownership is taught to many people these days, because in terms of movies and TV shows and video games, because we're getting more and more into the period of time where kids aren't going to have a bookcase or a shelf filled with videos for them to pick from. They're going to open up Netflix, and from a young age of 3-4 year olds understand how to operate a TV to get them into Netflix and to get themselves to pick a movie that they want to watch. Like, I think as a whole, I think that is our base point we are at now as a society, as humanity, is we want things now, and we have very little regards of how it got there or what damage that is doing beyond us being able to play the game.
Yeah. Very interesting. So yeah, I guess we'll see how this Palworld story progresses. Here's my. Do you think that 7 million number's true?
Yes.
Do you think that's 7 million actual people?
Yes. Like if I look at no. If I go Steam players, because Steam, I know they can't actually lie about Steam. So people playing right now is 1.715 million people are playing Palworld on Steam right now. And I think it's in like the third most purchased game or most played game ever. Kind of. Steam download stats, is it? I believe it. Like, I think it's pretty accurate.
There's got to be some sort of conspiracy here.
What do you mean by conspiracy?
They're like the Pocket Pal people like bought a bunch of codes for themselves, copies on a bunch of bot accounts.
The thing is, right, I think, and you with asking these questions is buying into it a little bit, is the idea that these Palworld people are effectively, they are not, I don't want to say bad people, but they are people that are
sketchy.
You're trying to state that they're sketchy, which is, I don't know if you can inherently say that, right? Like,
have you ever seen a game like this blow up in this way?
No, but the thing is, right? No.
Survival games like this grow over a course of
period. There's never been a survival game like this, though.
Okay.
Yes, there is definitely an aspect of this game that is like, this is the thing, right? That is capitalizing on people's desires for this game to exist with another IP. This game is very much capitalizing on that. The amount of people there is, and this is, I don't think anybody can doubt this or disprove this. There is a large player base out there that wants a Pokemon IP like this, or to have a Pokemon game that feels like this sort of newer generation game. Like there is, and it's obvious that it has to be, right. Like there has to be. The game would not be this successful if that wasn't a thing. And Palworld has capitalized on that and has filled the hole that was there. And I think that isn't sure. You can discuss about yes or no, is it good or bad that Palworld has done that? But again, at the same time, it's kind of bad that Nintendo have left that hole there. That hole wouldn't exist if Nintendo had done something with the IP and put something in their space.
Sometimes you need holes.
Nah, they need to be filled.
We'll talk about Palworld probably again next week, unless it does finally drop off a cliff.
Nope.
Or Nintendo.
I highly doubt it's
Nintendo.
If Nintendo do something impressive,
yeah,
yeah.
Final news story for this week. Karen, did you know that the Rocksteady game's coming next week?
I know of this.
Yes.
I know of this thing. Yeah.
So this is one that caught a lot of attention. So I'm reading from Forbes. On Tuesday, Rocksteady will launch its first major game since 2015's Arkham Knight, Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. But if you're wondering where press and creator reviews of the game are, just a few days ahead of that, you're not alone. This is not a situation where everybody has played and is just waiting for a day before the embargo, which is not that unusual, but instead, seemingly no one has actual copies of Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League right now. The writer Paul Tassi says, I've been waiting for updates from the comms team for about 2 weeks now, and was supposed to hear something official yesterday, but didn't. But asking around, the explanation is supposedly that since this is an always online co-op game, the servers simply aren't going to be turned on until the actual release on Tuesday the 30th. So no servers means that the press can't review the game ahead of that point. It's an explanation, I suppose. But then again, for Rocksteady's first enormous game in 9 years, a hugely important title, is pretty strange, and it feels like something that could have been concocted in, the last year to still actually allow early playthroughs of the game for review. Even if this is a live game with a lot more content to come, starting a month after launch, there's a sizable campaign to start with, which obviously can be reviewed. It is also that this wasn't communicated at all. If the decision was made to not give out early copies because the server wouldn't be up, it seemed strange that people were not told that ahead of time and could plan accordingly. Now it's just too late anyway. I could get a code this morning and I simply don't have time to blaze through a massive game in 2 days or some sort of Monday embargo. And again, it doesn't look like press can even play with until launch anyway. I'm probably just going to end up buying the early edition myself at this rate. This seems to be a story that we've seen many places. IGN even came out and said that they're not going to review copy ahead of launch. It's not uncommon for press places to not get press codes until day of launch or put articles up at launch. This one feels a little bit more cynical because a lot of the previews were negative.
This is the one where you feel like, okay, if Rocksteady felt good about this game, they would want to get out ahead and prove it to everybody through its reviewers and through the people that get hands on early.
Yes,
I think it attempted to do that with previews, didn't go well. There's somebody in them, kind of either the management or the marketing, or somebody has said, hey, if people review this game, it's going to have a really negative impact on our sales. Let's just let people buy the game.
Yes.
And, we'll buy the game without them knowing what the game is.
Yes.
And hopefully we get sales out of it.
Yes. And I feel like on the back of that, there's been a reasonably strong marketing push. Obviously, they advertised on a certain wrestling event this past weekend. I've seen JBs have massive displays for Suicide Squad. But yeah, it does not ring super promising. But it definitely feels like they're putting the game out. They want people to buy it before they can see what people's opinions are. And our advice would be wait till you see the opinions of people before you actually buy the game.
100%. And I'll be honest. You most likely won't get an opinion on our website because I don't think
if they send Paris code, finish Like a Dragon, I'll give it a go.
Actually give it a go, but I think I think it's actually definitely seek out people who you trust the opinion on, watch gameplay for yourself. Give yourself a second before you buy this game. Like I think it's funny because it's very much the tale of two coins. I think I almost felt like I wanted to say earlier when we were discussing the layoffs in gaming, where it's like the best thing that people can do is support the games you love and buy them when they come out. And the other side of that coin is definitely be wary of developer practices and be wary of what is being done here in terms of this game. There are so many red flags about this game, so many. I think it's for anybody who has kind of not so much paid attention, but anybody who's across it is. And as we discussed in the Palworld segment, the majority of people are probably not going to know about the discourse, are probably not going to know anything about the reviews for the game. They're just going to probably see a Justice League game and go, cool, I'm actually interested in that.
Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad. Justice League is the overarching. DC is the better term for it.
A DC game.
DC game. And be like, oh, it's a DC game by the same people who made those Batman games. Sweet. I'm going to buy it. But if you do listen to us, if you do listen to any gaming podcast, I would strongly recommend.
I suspect if you're listening to a gamer podcast, you've already heard all the stories about Suicide Squad 100%. And are thus cautious. If you know somebody who's interested in getting the game and does not listen to this, maybe advise them that
tell them. Maybe tell them to come listen to us.
That's the best option.
Really nice. Tell them to listen to us.
Make them listen to this podcast, but give them the bookmark of this exact moment, and we'll let them know.
Hey, you new listener, your friend has pointed you to us to warn you. Wait a minute on Suicide Squad. Maybe try out Prince of Persia on the Nintendo Switch, or check out Yakuza Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. If you want to hear more about Infinite Wealth, flick to the front of this episode. There's a whole discussion about it. It's pretty fucking sweet, If whatever you want to do.
Or just play Arkham Asylum again.
Or play Arkham Asylum or Palworld. But play whatever you want. Whatever you want to do. Just hold steady on the Suicide Squad game. Just for a bit. Yeah.
Just
hold
until
up.
Until there's a Open Critic score. Maybe just wait. But yeah. Do you think it's actually going to sell well? Do you think they'll be proud of the numbers that they're going to get on Suicide Squad?
No. I hope not. I really hope. I hope not sounds bad. Because I like Rocksteady.
You don't think it's not gonna do Hogwarts Legacy numbers?
No. God, no. It's not going to do Hogwarts Legacy numbers. I don't know. God, no. I think this game needs to be the hill that live service games die on. In this manner. I think this which, you know what? Guess what should have been the hill that live service games died on? Fucking Anthem.
Yeah.
It was within a week or two.
We just thought it was an anomaly.
And within a week or two, that game was in bargain bins for $25.
Yeah, so hold off, because Suicide Squad might be in bargain.
Might be the same.
Or
Marvel's The Avengers, or...
That one lasted a while.
That lasted a while, but didn't.
It lived a good 2-3 years, which is.
I don't know if you could
which is like a grandfather in live service games.
I don't know if you could call being on live support the entire time as living, but sure.
Wow. Just making fun of people on live support, Kieran. That's pretty bad. So yeah, Suicide Squad. Over on Explosion.com, Dylan's got a review up for Turnip Boy Robs a Bank. He gave it a 6 out of 10. And he said, I didn't have the review loaded. This silly game often feels too difficult for its own good. the bullet hell inspirations aren't as charming as the rest of the game, and looking back, the first game is easily a much better experience thanks to its gameplay and characters. Of course, this 5 to 6 hour roguelike, the second in this Turnip Boy series, available on Xbox, PC, or Nintendo Switch. Yeah, still not a fan. But, you can give this one, if you've got Xbox Game Pass, you can give it a go, because it's on there. I don't know what else to say, because Dylan's not here to give his other thoughts. So that was a game release this week. The other game I want to give a shout out to this week is Tekken 8, which obviously released this week on the Quality Critics. It's got a Quality Critic score of 9. Overall and well played. Who said it? Jordan Garcia says, Tekken 8 is exactly what I wanted it to be. Cohesive, silly, fun, ridiculous, and brilliant. The King of Iron Fist returns with one more entry to close out its bombastic, chaotic story, and it does it in style. The fighting feels great, the story is silly and fun, the music rules, and the visuals are fantastic. Combine this with the game's new special style system, which lowers the barrier of entry for new players, and you have a Tekken game that easily caters to a wide variety of players. And then over at Games Hub, Leah Williams says, with more accessible gameplay, very neat introductions to its array of fighters and their individual quirks, and new fighting style for newbie players, Tekken 8 feels like an incredibly worthy fighting sequel, geared to overtake its predecessors. If you're familiar with the Tekken series, there's nothing quite groundbreaking in the game's approach to fighting combat, but even with Tekken 8 building on the blocks of 7, it remains a compelling and glorious fighter, one buoyed by its lofty blockbuster ambitions. So yeah, Kieran, are you interested in playing Tekken 8?
No.
Are you going to watch people play Tekken 8?
No, I don't even. I think Tekken is a series. I think fighting games in general is not my cup of tea, and I think it's an acquired taste for people.
Mm-hmm.
I do think. Yeah, I was actually listening this week to the lore behind Tekken and how insane the lore of Tekken is in kind of the grand scheme of things. How pretty much it's got to the point where everybody owns a company and Jin has started wars on the entire world. It's kind of one of the main antagonists is Kuma, which previously I thought was the meme character because it's a fucking bear. But no, Kuma is a main kind of decent antagonist now in the Tekken series. I think, you know what, I always respect Tekken. I respect the overall idea behind the kind of the mastery of getting into the esport and how deep developers go with thinking that ahead. But not so much for me.
No. I probably won't be playing Tekken 8, but it's interesting to see, obviously in the back of Street Fighter last year as well, them adding a bunch of accessibility options or making it easier to get players into the genre. Probably a very smart move because obviously, the fighting genre has been quite niche, and if you want to get bigger, then you need to appeal to the people who are probably I only play Smash Brothers, but I've kind of grown out of that. What do I play next? And then there's, Street Fighter, which you kind of ease them in, or Tekken, where you can ease them in. So yeah, I mean, fighting fans have had a good 12 months, between all the big games that have been releasing in the genre. So eat up, because it's gonna be a drought for a while. You're not going to get another release for you get them all at once, and then you're going to have nothing for a while.
You might get a Guilty Gear randomly at some point, or one of those kinds of fighting games.
Or
Dragon
some
Ball
sort
or
of
something.
other spin-off from other franchise. So yeah. All right, well, that's everything on this week's Arcade Couch. Let us know what you thought of anything we discussed on the show. Or what are your feelings on Palworld or Suicide Squad, Kill Justice League? Let us know by going to explosion.com/Twitter, or jump into our Discord at explosion.com/Discord. If you want to help us out here at Arcade Couch, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, or leave us 5 stars. And you can leave 5 stars, or just tell people about the show, especially those friends that don't listen to any gaming podcasts, because they need that information that we stated earlier. And if you enjoyed this episode, thought it was worth $1, head on over to our Ko-fi page at explosion.com/support. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you here next week. Same time, same couch. Bye.
Yeah.
Hey, you're listening. You're still here, aren't you? Welcome to the show. Have a good day. Episode's done now. You can go check out Towers of Thousand.
Or Platinum Explosion. That's probably more relevant for if they're into gaming.